The Zarek Empire had conquered dozens of planets. They were known across the galaxy as the ultimate force, powerful, unyielding, and feared by all. Their ships were faster, stronger, and far more advanced than anything any other species could create. Their weapons could wipe out entire cities with a single shot, and their armies were made up of genetically enhanced soldiers, bred for battle. To them, no species could stand in their way. So when the Zarek Empire's scouts reported that Earth, a primitive planet on the edge of the galaxy, had made little progress in the last few centuries, the Zarek leadership scoffed. Humanity was weak. They had no shields capable of withstanding Zarek weaponry, no advanced technology, and no hope of putting up a real fight. "Earth is no more than a playground for us," said High Commander Kale as he leaned back in his command chair. His eyes were cold, and a smile tugged at his lips. "Prepare the fleet. We will crush them and take their resources. The human race will never even know what hit them." The invasion began. As the massive Zarek fleet entered the Sol system, they passed the asteroid belt, and Earth came into full view. The planets surrounding Earth were nothing special to them, just rocks and dust. But the blue planet was different. Earth was a beautiful sight from space, but Kel's eyes narrowed as he saw it for what it truly was. Weak. Earth had been silent for centuries. No spacefaring ships, no evidence of advanced technology. Just a small planet, a dead one in the galaxy's eyes. The Zarek fleet hovered outside Earth's orbit, ready to make their move. They launched their first wave of ships, smaller reconnaissance vessels, to scan the planet. Earth was supposed to be an easy conquest, a world waiting to be stripped of its resources. But as the Zarek ships neared, something unusual appeared on their scanners. At first, they thought it was an error. But the readings were clear. Earth had defenses, hidden beneath the oceans, buried deep in the mountains. Ancient structures, untouched for centuries, were coming online. The Zarek fleet paused, their systems whirring as they tried to make sense of what they were seeing. "Is this some kind of defense system?" asked Commander Torg, one of the Zarek officers, his voice tinged with doubt. High Commander Kale laughed, a deep, confident sound. "Impossible. The humans haven't had the technology to build anything like this. It must be a coincidence. We'll be fine." Kale was sure of it. The Zarek Empire was the most advanced species in the galaxy, and nothing could stand against their might. "Continue with the assault," Kale ordered, his voice dripping with confidence. The first bombardment began. The Zarek ships fired their massive energy cannons at the surface of Earth. The explosions lit up the sky as blasts of fire tore into the atmosphere. Shockwaves spread out, rattling the buildings of Earth's cities. The people below didn't know what hit them. But just as the Zarek expected, Earth seemed to fight back weakly, sending out a few feeble attempts at resistance, like a moth flapping against a raging fire. Kale smiled again, watching the destruction unfold on his screen. "This will be easy," he muttered. "By the time they realize what's happening, it will be over." But as the bombs continued to fall, something unexpected happened. The Zarek fleet had missed something they didn't understand. And as their ships continued to rain down destruction, they unknowingly triggered something ancient buried deep within Earth's core. Suddenly, a series of low, rumbling sounds echoed through the Zarek ships. Their sensors buzzed, warning them of something they couldn't identify. "Prepare for a second wave," Kale ordered, frustrated. "This is taking longer than it should. We'll wipe out their cities and bring them to their knees." But Earth wasn't going to be brought to its knees. Hidden across the planet were remnants of an ancient human defense system, things the Zarek could never have predicted. Thousands of years ago, humans had left behind weapons far more advanced than anything the Zarek had seen. When the first bomb struck, it triggered these weapons, defenses designed to protect humanity, to keep invaders out. The first signs of this hidden power appeared when several of the Zarek's smaller ships began to explode in midair. Their shields, designed to withstand the most powerful attacks, flickered and failed as the ancient systems of Earth's defense came to life. "What is happening?" shouted Commander Torg, his voice full of panic. High Commander Kel's face hardened. "Impossible," he growled. "They should have no defenses like this. These humans are nothing more than insects. How could they have such power?" The Xyric ships launched their full assault, but Earth wasn't going to be defeated so easily. The sky was filled with fire as beams of energy shot up from the planet's surface, targeting the invaders. Some Xyric ships began to go dark, losing power in mid-flight as their engines shut down. Kale gritted his teeth. "You fools," he spat. "This is just a trick. Bring down the main weapon. We will destroy this planet and show them what true power looks like." But Kale didn't know the truth. He didn't know that humanity wasn't weak. They weren't helpless. They hadn't just been hiding in silence. They had been preparing. The moment the Xyric set foot on Earth, they triggered an ancient warning, one that the galaxy had long since forgotten. Earth had always been a sleeping giant, waiting for the right moment to awaken. And now it was awake. As the Xyric fleet continued their attack, they didn't realize that they were facing something much bigger than themselves. They were about to learn a painful lesson. Humanity wasn't weak. They were far from it. And soon, the Xyric would find out just how terrifying they could be. The Xyric fleet had underestimated Earth, and now they were feeling the consequences. As their ships continued to fire at the planet's surface, they couldn't help but notice the sudden shift in the atmosphere. Something had changed. Earth wasn't putting up a weak resistance. It was fighting back with a strength they had never imagined. On Earth's surface, humanity watched in shock as their ancient defenses began to activate. From long-forgotten bunkers hidden beneath the oceans and in the mountains, massive weapons systems powered up. The world's military had long since been forgotten, buried under layers of time and history. But now, this forgotten power had been awakened. Inside the command center of the Xyric flagship, High Commander Kale paced back and forth. His confidence had started to crack. His fleet had already launched several rounds of bombardment, yet something about the planet's defense systems didn't add up. The shields on Earth weren't supposed to be this strong. Why haven't they given up? Kale muttered, gripping the edge of his command chair. Their defenses shouldn't be capable of this. A loud beep sounded from his console. The monitor flashed with alarming data. A series of anti-ship railguns hidden in Earth's crust had fired. In an instant, one of the Xyric battleships, a massive warship designed to withstand the fiercest attacks, was hit. The ship's shields flickered and failed. The railgun shot pierced the hull, ripping the ship open, and it exploded in a ball of fire. Kale froze, staring at the display in disbelief. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Sir, we're detecting multiple weapons systems activating across the planet," reported Commander Torg, his voice full of urgency. "We didn't expect this kind of firepower from a primitive world." Kale slammed his fist on the console. This was supposed to be a simple mission. Earth was supposed to be an easy conquest, a world of weak, defenseless creatures. But now, humanity had proven it was capable of far more than anyone had ever imagined. "Prepare the main assault," Kale ordered coldly. "They're just delaying the inevitable. Launch the ground invasion. We'll crush them on the surface." The Xyric fleet launched their ground troops, thousands of elite soldiers, each one genetically engineered for strength and speed. Their mission: take Earth's cities, capture any humans, and eliminate their defenses. The first wave of Xyric soldiers dropped onto Earth's surface, landing in a desolate part of the planet. They wore advanced armor and carried weapons capable of wiping out entire populations. Humanity wouldn't stand a chance. But as soon as they touched down, something felt wrong. The Xyric soldiers were expecting to see chaos. They expected to find a world of frightened people running in panic, waiting to be slaughtered. Instead, they found silence. A deadly silence. Suddenly, the ground beneath them began to shake. The Xyric soldiers looked around, confused, when a massive explosion tore through the ground beneath their feet. Soldiers were thrown in every direction as Earth's hidden defenses, long dormant weapon systems, opened fire. From deep within the Earth's core, massive, automated war machines rose from underground bunkers. These machines were unlike anything the Zyrek had ever seen. Some were humanoid in shape, others were massive, heavily armed tanks, their weapons blazing with energy. They had been waiting, buried deep under Earth's surface, for the right moment to return. The Zyrek soldiers struggled to regroup, but they were overwhelmed by the sheer scale of the assault. Human soldiers, armed with weapons from a time long past, joined the fray. They fought with brutal efficiency, launching ambushes, setting traps, and using the terrain to their advantage. The Zyrek's advanced technology and strength were no match for the unpredictability of Earth's terrain, the guerrilla tactics of humans, and the ancient war machines that had been forgotten by the rest of the galaxy. The Zyrek commander Torg watched in horror as his soldiers were picked off one by one. "Retreat," he shouted, his voice filled with panic. "We can't win this. Fall back to the ships." But it was too late. The Zyrek soldiers were pinned down, unable to escape the onslaught from humans who fought with a fierce desperation that only came from a species fighting for survival. Back in the command center of the flagship, Cal's face turned pale as he watched the battle unfold. The ground invasion was supposed to be an easy victory, yet now it was chaos. "What is happening?" he demanded again. "Why aren't they running? Why are they fighting back like this?" Commander Torg's voice shook as he answered. "We thought Earth was weak. We thought they had no chance. But they've turned the tide. We're being pushed back. We've underestimated them. And now we're losing." Cal's mind raced. This wasn't the battle they had prepared for. Humanity wasn't just fighting back. They were fighting smarter. And they were using every advantage Earth had to its full potential. The Zyrek fleet had never faced an enemy like this before. A sudden explosion rocked the flagship as a missile, fired from one of Earth's hidden defense satellites, slammed into the side of their ship. The shields flickered, but this time they didn't hold. The flagship was hit. The crew scrambled to regain control, but the damage was severe. The battle was far from over. In fact, it had just begun. And now, the Zyrek would learn the true meaning of humanity's strength. As High Commander Cal watched, he realized one thing. Earth wasn't just a weak planet. Humanity was something different, something more dangerous than they could have ever predicted. The invasion had only just begun, but already the Zyrek were losing. And they were beginning to understand, too late, that they had made a terrible mistake. The Zyrek fleet, once so confident in their superior power, was now struggling. Their ships were under constant assault from Earth's unexpected weaponry, and their soldiers were being slaughtered on the surface by a force they had never anticipated. The Zyrek had made a grave error, one that they wouldn't be able to correct. The humans they had underestimated were rising to meet them in ways they couldn't comprehend. High Commander Cal stood in the war room, staring at the holographic display of Earth. The battle had escalated far beyond what he had expected. His fleet was disorganized, retreating under the relentless fire of Earth's defenses. His soldiers on the ground were struggling to hold their ground against human forces who had mobilized quickly. Worse still, Earth wasn't backing down. It was fighting back harder than ever. How could this happen? Cal muttered to himself, his anger and confusion mounting. "We have the technology to wipe out entire planets, and yet these humans are surviving, fighting back, thriving." A sudden explosion shook the flagship, rattling the entire ship. Cal stumbled as the alarms blared across the command center. "Sir," another missile hit from the surface, a trembling officer reported. "They've targeted our engines. The ship is losing power." Cal's hands clenched into fists. His heart raced. Earth had already crippled one of their ships, and now their flagship was in danger of following suit. The very ground they had stepped onto was becoming a battleground that they couldn't escape. Meanwhile, On Earth's surface, the situation was far from what the Zerek had expected. The ancient weapons systems, thought to be relics of a forgotten age, were proving to be far more than just primitive technology. Earth's weaponry was designed to withstand vast invasions, to push back superior forces. And now, the Zerek were learning the hard way. Across the planet, military leaders from every corner of Earth had rallied together. Nations that had once been divided were now unified under the common cause of survival. Earth's combined forces had launched counterattacks on the Zyrek invaders, and they were not only fighting to defend their world, they were fighting to protect the future of humanity itself. In the heart of one of Earth's major cities, a military leader named General Elias Stone oversaw the counteroffensive. He stood on a rooftop, watching as the battle raged below. The sound of explosions echoed through the streets as Zyrek soldiers fell, one after another. "We can do this," General Stone said to his team, his voice full of determination. "They thought they could walk all over us, but they've forgotten one thing. We are humans, and we don't give up." He turned to his comms officer. "Activate the orbital cannon. It's time we show them the full power of humanity's might." The officer nodded, quickly tapping a series of commands into his console. The orbital cannon, a massive weapon system built into Earth's satellites, powered up and locked onto its target, the largest Zerek warship hovering just outside Earth's atmosphere. The weapon fired, sending a devastating energy pulse streaking toward the enemy ship. The Zyrek warship's shields flickered weakly before collapsing under the intensity of the blast. The entire ship shuddered as its hull cracked and ruptured, sending debris spiraling into space. Kel's face turned ashen as he watched the destruction unfold on his screen. His flagship was already struggling, and now one of his largest ships had been destroyed in a single strike. He had never seen anything like this before. He couldn't believe what was happening. "The humans, they've done the impossible," Kel muttered, his eyes wide with disbelief. "We were supposed to crush them in minutes, not lose entire fleets." Back on Earth, the victory felt sweet but brief. Humanity had struck a major blow, but the Zerek weren't giving up so easily. As the last remnants of their fleet retreated into space, Kel wasn't ready to concede defeat. He was a master tactician, and his pride wouldn't allow him to back down now. "Prepare the secondary fleet," Kel ordered his officers. "We will send reinforcements. The humans have tasted defeat, but this is far from over. We will finish what we started." Meanwhile, Earth's leaders were already strategizing their next move. With each passing minute, they were learning more about the Zyrek, their weaknesses, their tactics. The battle for Earth had only just begun, but humanity's newfound strength and unity had already given them an edge the Zyrek hadn't anticipated. "General Stone, what's our status?" a commander asked over the comms. "Still fighting, but we've got them on the ropes," Stone replied. "We need to keep pushing. We've shown them that we're not just some weak, defenseless species. We can win this." As the Zyrek prepared to regroup, their once unshakable confidence now shattered. Earth stood strong. Humanity had awakened something far more powerful than just ancient weapons. They had awakened their will to survive, a force more formidable than anything the Zyrek could have imagined. But the Zyrek had no intention of giving up. They were about to realize just how far humanity would go to protect their home, and how deadly humans could be when pushed to the brink. The battle was far from over, but Earth had proven one thing to the galaxy: never underestimate humanity. The Zyrek fleet, regrouping in the dark reaches of space, was licking its wounds. The loss of their primary warship and the destruction of key defensive satellites had dealt a blow to their pride and power. But they were far from defeated. High Commander Kel's fury was palpable as he stood before his officers, his gaze cold and focused. "We underestimated them," Kel said, his voice tight with anger. "But no more. These humans may be resilient, but they've never faced a true force like us. Prepare for a full-scale invasion. We will take Earth, or we will burn it to the ground." The Zyrek fleet had begun its regrouping in secret, hidden away in a remote system far from Earth's defensive reach. Their warships were being repaired, their weapons recalibrated, and new soldiers, stronger, more advanced, were being sent to reinforce the forces already on the ground. Kale was preparing for a second wave, one that would bring destruction to Earth that it wouldn't be able to recover from. Back on Earth, the mood was different. The victory they had tasted was still fresh, but the battle was far from over. Humanity had shown incredible resilience, but they were aware that the Zyrek would return, and when they did, they would be stronger, more prepared. This knowledge weighed heavily on the leaders and commanders who now found themselves in a race against time. General Elias Stone stood at the command center, the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. The battles they had won felt like small victories in a larger war, but the real challenge was yet to come. The Zyrek wouldn't give up easily. "We've pushed them back for now," General Stone said, speaking to his fellow officers. "But we need to prepare for the next attack. They won't stop. We need every soldier, every weapon, every resource." "Sir, we've made contact with the remnants of Earth's defense satellites," a technician reported. "We can activate the hidden military bases around the world, but we'll need time. The Zyrek will hit us before we're ready." Stone nodded grimly. "Time is something we don't have. Prepare to activate all defense protocols. It's time to show them what humanity can do when we fight together." But just as they were organizing their final defenses, a new message came in from the farthest reaches of space. A scout ship had detected the movement of an enormous Zyrek fleet, far larger than the one they had already faced. It was heading straight for Earth. General Stone's eyes widened as the information filled the screen. The size of the fleet was staggering, and it was moving fast. The Zyrek were coming in full force. "This is it," Stone said, his voice low but resolute. "The reckoning is here." Across the planet, governments and military forces went on high alert. Humanity had to unite like never before. Every nation, every city, every person with the skill to fight was now called to arms. Earth's last chance of survival was at hand, and they would need to use everything they had, and then some, to repel the coming storm. As the days passed, the Zyrek fleet grew closer. Thousands of ships filled the void of space, a dark and threatening cloud that slowly edged toward Earth. On the surface, the preparations were underway. The world's greatest minds and military leaders were hard at work, devising strategies, activating ancient defense systems, and calling upon their strongest warriors. And then, at the moment of greatest tension, a signal broadcast from a distant outpost cut through the chaos. Earth had a new ally. A coalition of species, many who had watched in fear as the Zyrek crushed their worlds, had seen the power and resolve humanity had shown. These species, once too afraid to intervene, now rallied behind Earth. The galaxy watched as several ships from these new allies arrived at Earth's orbit, providing much-needed reinforcements. Among them was the Trulkian fleet, known for their advanced technology and brutal combat tactics. Their ships were sleek and deadly, built for speed and precision. General Stone received the news as he watched the new fleet dock. A deep breath escaped his lips. "We're not alone anymore. Humanity has allies. We will stand and fight. Together." The Zyrek, sensing the growing alliance between Earth and the other species, adjusted their battle strategy. They knew they were facing something far more dangerous than they had initially imagined. Earth's allies were no longer scattered and divided. The galaxy had now come together in the face of a common enemy. But as the Zyrek fleet neared Earth's atmosphere, they had no idea what was waiting for them. Earth's defenses were now fully activated. Massive energy barriers surrounded the planet, powered by long-dormant systems that had been hidden away for centuries. These systems, built by ancient human civilizations and forgotten in the modern era, were now Earth's greatest asset. The Zyrek ships, expecting an easy victory, were met with a stunning wall of firepower. Missiles, energy blasts, and waves of railgun fire erupted from Earth's surface. tearing into the approaching fleet. It was clear that Earth was ready for battle. Inside the Zyrek flagship, Kale watched in horror as his fleet took heavy damage. Shields were failing, and the massive energy beams from Earth's surface were tearing through their ships. This was unlike any battle they had ever fought. "What is happening?" Kale screamed, his eyes wide with disbelief. "We can't hold. We need reinforcements. Now." But it was too late. Earth's newfound power, combined with the reinforcements from their allies, was too much for the Zyrek to handle. The Zyrek fleet was being decimated, one ship at a time. The humans, with their strength, their unity, and their fierce determination, were turning the tide of the war. As the battle raged on, it became clear that the Zyrek had gravely underestimated humanity's will to survive. This was no longer just a fight for Earth, it was a fight for the galaxy's future. The Zyrek had dared to challenge humanity, and now they were learning that humanity was far more than they had ever feared. The battle was in full swing, and the space surrounding Earth had become a chaotic battlefield. Ships of all sizes, from Earth's mighty warships to the sleek and deadly vessels of the Trolkian fleet, fought side by side. The sky above was alive with the flashing of laser beams, explosions, and the sound of battle ringing through the vacuum of space. On Earth's surface, the military had mobilized every resource. People who had once been civilians were now soldiers, and every country on the planet had joined the fight. The whole world stood united, working together to protect their home from the Zyrek's relentless assault. General Stone stood in the command center, eyes fixed on the screens showing the battle above. His fingers hovered over a console, sweat dripping from his brow. He knew the Zyrek weren't going to give up easily. The sheer scale of their fleet was staggering, but humanity had a secret weapon: their unshakable will to survive. "We're holding our ground, but we can't let up. We need to strike hard," Stone said, his voice steady despite the intensity of the situation. "We've activated all our defense systems, General," the technician responded. "The Zyrek fleet is taking heavy losses, but they're regrouping. If we don't act fast, they'll reorganize and come back stronger." Stone nodded grimly. The Zyrek had underestimated Earth's power once before, but now they had learned a harsh lesson. The battle was far from won, and the final confrontation was looming. Humanity was about to face its greatest test. Meanwhile, aboard the Zyrek flagship, High Commander Kale was seething with rage. His ships were scattered, his forces battered, and the humans had proven to be more formidable than he had ever imagined. But Kale wasn't about to back down. He had one last card to play. "Activate the annihilator cannon," Kale ordered, his voice cold with fury. "We'll wipe them out in one strike." The annihilator cannon was the Zyrek's most destructive weapon, a weapon capable of destroying entire planets. Kale had kept it hidden, waiting for the moment when the humans had pushed too far. It was time to end this, once and for all. As Kale's command was executed, a massive energy pulse began to build within the Zyrek flagship. The cannon powered up, drawing from the ship's core. It was a weapon that could turn the tide of the war. But as the energy surged, something unexpected happened. On the surface of Earth, General Stone and his team watched in horror as the Zyrek flagship aimed its deadly cannon toward their planet. The energy readings were off the charts. "General," a technician cried out, "if they fire that cannon, Earth will be destroyed. We won't survive." Stone's mind raced. There was no time to evacuate, no time to stop it. The cannon was about to fire. Humanity's only hope was to stop the cannon before it could unleash its full power. "I have an idea," Stone said suddenly. "We need to take down the flagship." Stone's plan was risky, suicidal, even, but it was the only chance they had. Earth's forces had one final weapon left: the newly completed Omega-class bomber, a stealth ship capable of carrying the most powerful weapon Earth had ever built. It was designed to infiltrate the heart of the Zyrek fleet and strike directly at the core of their flagship. General Stone gave the order. and a group of elite pilots was quickly dispatched. They would have to slip past the remaining Zyrek defenses and land a devastating blow to the flagship's power core before the Annihilator cannon could fire. As the Omega-class bombers launched from Earth's surface, a wave of hope surged through the ranks of humanity. This was it, the final chance to save their world. Aboard the Zyrek flagship, Kel continued to watch as his weapon powered up. The Annihilator cannon was almost ready, but he didn't know what was about to happen next. The Omega-class bombers, their sleek forms barely visible against the blackness of space, zipped through the remains of the Zyrek defense line. They moved fast, using their stealth technology to avoid detection. But as they neared the flagship, an alarm blared. The Zyrek fleet had spotted them. "Damn it!" Kel growled as he saw the bombers approaching. "Activate all shields. We can't let them reach the core." But the bombers were already closing in. The Zyrek flagship's shields flickered as the Omega bombers made their move. The first wave of bombers released their payloads, launching missiles directly at the flagship's core. The flagship shuddered as the first explosion rocked the ship. The shield generators weakened, but Kel wasn't giving up. "Fire everything!" Kel screamed. The Zyrek flagship launched a barrage of energy blasts in all directions. Some of the bombers were hit and destroyed, but two managed to push through, their payloads aimed directly at the heart of the ship. Inside the flagship, chaos erupted. The energy readings were off the charts as the bombs struck their mark. The Annihilator cannon's power core exploded in a devastating flash, sending shockwaves across the entire fleet. The flagship, once a symbol of the Zyrek's might, was now a burning wreck, drifting through space. Kel, one of his officers, screamed as they scrambled to escape the dying ship. "We've lost the core. The cannon is offline. We're done." But it wasn't over yet. The Zyrek fleet, now leaderless and crippled, began to fall apart. Earth's forces pressed the advantage, launching a final offensive. The Zyrek, now weakened and desperate, began retreating, scattering into the void of space. On Earth, the people watched as the battle above them began to wind down. The sky was filled with flashes of light as the remnants of the Zyrek fleet tried to escape. Earth had won, but the cost had been immense. As General Stone stood in the command center, he let out a long, relieved breath. The threat was finally over. Humanity had survived. But the scars of this battle would remain. The galaxy would never forget the day when humanity, thought to be weak, stood strong and turned the tide of a galactic war. Earth had proven, without a doubt, that it was not to be underestimated. The battle was over, but the silence that followed was deafening. The once thriving battlefield in space had been reduced to a vast graveyard of destroyed ships and debris. The Zyrek fleet, once thought to be unbeatable, was now in ruins. Earth had fought back, and against all odds, it had emerged victorious. But victory came at a price. Across the globe, the celebrations were muted. The damage to Earth's cities, military installations, and infrastructure was massive. The cost in lives was staggering. Despite the heroics of humanity's fighters, there were no cheers on Earth's surface, only a solemn recognition of the horrors they had survived. General Stone stood in the war room, staring at the holographic display of the galaxy. The Trelkian and Zyrek fleets were now scattered, but the damage they had caused would take years to recover from. As he reviewed the reports coming in from all over the planet, he felt a wave of exhaustion wash over him. "We won, General," said his second-in-command, Commander Jackson. "But this war has changed everything." Stone didn't respond immediately. He was lost in thought, reflecting on the countless lives lost and the long road ahead. But he knew Jackson was right. The victory over the Zyrek had proven humanity's strength, but it had also shown just how fragile their world had become. "We need to rebuild," Stone said finally, his voice steady but tired. "But more importantly, we need to prepare. The Zyrek may be gone, but we've made enemies across the galaxy. And next time, we might not be so lucky. Across the galaxy, the aftermath of the battle was being felt in unexpected ways. News of humanity's victory spread like wildfire among the other species. The Trelkians, who had long been skeptical of humans' ability to defend themselves, now found themselves reconsidering their stance. The Zolrathi, a race of opportunistic traders, saw an opening to exploit Earth's weakened state. Even the seemingly peaceful Delorian species, known for their isolationist ways, began to take an interest in Earth's resources. But the greatest reaction came from an unexpected place. The Galactic Council, the group of neutral species that had long controlled the peacekeeping and political balance of the galaxy. The Council, which had previously viewed Earth with a mix of curiosity and contempt, now found itself facing a dangerous dilemma. "We cannot let them grow stronger," one of the council members, a member of the ultra-powerful Drazen race, said as they convened to discuss humanity's rise. "Humanity has proven they can fight. We must ensure they don't become a threat to the entire galaxy." Another member of the council, a calm and thoughtful Theron, spoke up. "We should not forget, however, that Earth is now a power in its own right. Ignoring them could have unintended consequences. Perhaps it is time for us to reconsider their place in the galaxy." Back on Earth, Stone and his team gathered for a final briefing. Their victory had shaken the galaxy, but it was also a wake-up call for humanity itself. The war with the Zyrek might have ended, but the real challenge was just beginning. "We've proven ourselves," Stone said, looking at the team gathered around him. "But the truth is, we're only just starting to understand the galaxy we're part of. There are other species out there, some far more dangerous than the Zyrek, and we've now caught their attention." As the holographic map of the galaxy flickered in front of him, Stone knew what was coming. He could feel it, the sense of unease in the air. The galaxy was now watching Earth, and it wasn't just because of the war. They were watching because humanity had survived, and humanity had shown something the galaxy hadn't expected: a ruthless determination to fight, a will to survive, and a strength that no one could ignore. There were whispers already, rumors that other races were preparing for what was coming. The Zyrek may have been defeated, but the ripples of that victory were just starting to spread. Earth had made its mark, and now they would have to face the consequences of it. Stone turned away from the holographic display and glanced at the window, where the Earth's horizon could be seen in the distance. The planet was recovering, but there was no mistaking the tension in the air. The Zyrek War was over, but the future was uncertain. "Prepare the fleet," Stone said quietly, more to himself than to anyone else. "We've earned a seat at the table now, and it's time to make sure they understand exactly what we're capable of." As the command center buzzed with activity, Stone's words echoed in his mind. Humanity had won this battle, but the galaxy was vast, and Earth had only just started to scratch the surface of its true potential. The victory over the Zyrek would forever be etched in history, but what mattered now was what came next. And deep down, Stone knew that the true test of humanity's strength wasn't just about surviving one battle. It was about surviving the galaxy's judgment, and facing whatever came for Earth next. The universe, for all its vastness and power, had just learned one undeniable truth: humanity was not weak, and they would never be silenced. The war with the Zyrek had ended, but the battle for humanity's place in the galaxy had only just begun. As the weeks passed, Earth slowly began to recover from the devastation. Cities were rebuilt, industries restored, and humanity found a way to continue, even in the shadow of their great conflict. But the scars of war would never fade, and a new era of uncertainty loomed over their heads. General Stone stood at the front of the massive command center overlooking the planet's defenses. A map of the galaxy was displayed across the walls, dotted with the positions of hundreds of ships and installations. The room buzzed with activity as officers, analysts, and military leaders all coordinated the next steps for Earth's future. Stone had hoped that the victory over the Zyrek would lead to peace, but as time passed, it became clear that peace would be fleeting. New threats were emerging from every corner of the galaxy, each more dangerous than the last. The Zerek were gone, but others were watching, learning from humanity's strength, and waiting for the right moment to strike. "We've done it, General," Commander Jackson said as he approached, his tone quiet but filled with awe. "We've shown the galaxy who we are. But there's something else coming, isn't there? Something bigger." Stone nodded solemnly. "The galaxy isn't what it seems. The Council, the factions, the powers that be, they don't care about peace. They only care about their own survival. And now that we've proven ourselves as a force to be reckoned with, we're on their radar. We're not the underdogs anymore, Jackson. We're a threat." He paused, glancing at the holomap. "But we've earned something now. Respect, fear, and it's up to us to decide what we do with it." Back on Earth, the news was filled with reports of humanity's strength, their victory over the Zyrek, and the first steps toward joining the larger galactic community. But behind the headlines, a quieter, more dangerous truth was beginning to unfold. There were rumors of new alliances forming, factions that had once been neutral now eyeing Earth with suspicion. The Trelkians, now allies of Earth, warned that there were still races who believed humanity's rise needed to be stopped before it grew any further. The Galactic Council convened in secret, its members plotting the next course of action. They were divided. Some believed humanity could be useful, a new ally to balance the power in the galaxy. Others feared Earth would challenge their control over the galaxy, and those voices were growing louder. Meanwhile, a new breed of warrior emerged from the chaos of battle: the Deathworlders. Earth's warriors, hardened by countless battles and struggles, began to gather in secret. They were no longer just soldiers. They were something more, something powerful. As the rumors of growing galactic unrest spread, these warriors trained, prepared, and waited for the inevitable. The rest of the galaxy didn't yet understand humanity's true nature. They had seen the determination, the will to fight, and the ability to win. But they hadn't yet seen what humans would do when faced with the impossible. That was the final lesson humanity would soon teach. In the command center, Stone reviewed the reports from Earth's fleet. The shipyards were working at full capacity, constructing a new generation of warships, sleek, deadly, and designed for one purpose: to defend Earth at all costs. "The next battle won't be on Earth," Stone said, addressing his team. "It will be out there, in the stars. We've made enemies, yes, but we've also made allies. It's time we take our place in the galaxy, whether they're ready for us or not." One of the analysts spoke up, a young officer with a nervous look in his eyes. "General, there's something else we've uncovered. A new faction, the Kartoth. They're not like the Zyrek. They're more organized, more powerful. They're already preparing to strike." Stone looked at the officer, his face hardening. "How long until they reach us?" 2 weeks, sir. They've been watching, and they're ready to test us." Stone clenched his fists. The Zerek were only the beginning. The galaxy was filled with species who thought they were the rulers, the ones who decided the fate of entire civilizations. They hadn't expected humanity to stand up. They hadn't expected Earth to fight back. But humanity had shown them that it would not be silenced, that it would never back down. "We'll meet them head-on," Stone said, his voice unwavering. "We've faced worse odds before. The galaxy thought humanity was weak, but now they'll know better." The final piece of the puzzle clicked into place. The fleets, the warriors, the ships, they were ready. Earth had become a force in the galaxy, one that could not be ignored. But the galaxy was still a dangerous place, and Earth would need to be ready for whatever came next. As the meeting broke up, and the team began to prepare for the coming war, Stone stood alone in the room. Outside the command center, Earth's horizon was visible, the sun setting on a world forever changed. The universe was vast, filled with untold dangers and wonders, but one thing was certain: humanity's place in it had been secured. Earth had proven its strength, and now Earth would prove that it was here to stay. The next battle was coming, and humanity was ready. The universe would soon learn that humanity was not just a force to be reckoned with. Humanity was the galaxy's most terrifying warrior species.